Do you feel disconnected, or maybe do you feel like you've been in a community for a really long time, but you don't know if you could enter into a new community at any given point? Today we're going to talk about all things community. What does that word mean? And how can one single human interaction change the trajectory of eternity?
Yeah.
You've come to the right place. We're so excited to have you. Welcome back to the Light and Life podcast.
Hey, yeah, we're stuck in our own heads. We're stuck on our own screens. And sometimes we forget that a human interaction can change the world. It can change the course of someone's life forever. It can change eternity. And do we even know how to be in that kind of community?
What does it mean to you to find your people?
Yeah, find your people, your people.
Like, people will say, like, oh, when you find your people, like, everything just
Do you like that phrase, like intentional community? When you hear the phrase, I want to be an intentional community, are you like, yay, I want to be an intentional community? Or how do you react to that phrase?
I didn't know that was a phrase.
Oh, it's a big phrase.
Okay, I knew the word community was, like, big in church culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, it can mean a lot of things. There's like neighborhood communities. There's, you know, school communities. There's all sorts of communities. What does community or finding your people mean? And when you say, do I like the phrase intentional community?
I would have thought,
it's like, what's the context of the community?
Yeah, right.
Because I'd like it to be intentional sometimes. I don't want, you know, to go to work and then be like, hey, Liza, I heard, you know, your relationship with XYZ's not going too hot. Like, we're good. We don't have to talk about this at work.
Yeah, I want work to be, you'd rather work to be work, like.
Yeah.
But, well, I hear of a lot of people, and I think frankly, a lot of people your age who talk about, I want to be an intentional community. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what does that mean? What commitments am I willing to make to be in community, to be in meaningful? I think when you're talking about being in community, you're talking about being in relationship with somebody past the point where you're a shiny, perfect presentation of yourself.
Yes. I think of my people as the kinds of people that I can sit and say nothing with and feel comfortable with. Now, I'm an extrovert, so that doesn't happen that often. But when I don't have to be on, if you will. Like I can just be and know that I'm accepted and know that I'm wanted.
Yeah.
But how do you find that? If you're new to a city, if you're new to a church, if you're new to a college, how do you find your people? And everyone craves to belong. Right.
Everybody wants to be known and loved.
But it's hard to put yourself out there.
And
sometimes
it's hard to put yourself. So you're talking to somebody who got married when he was 22.
Yeah.
So like you asked me, like, how do you find your intentional community? You put a ring on it, and then you start it.
Right on.
Like that's my community. That's my people. You know. Like we got married real young, and so that was like, but at the same time.
That's awesome.
At the same time, I remember as a young man knowing that if someone didn't like me, I didn't want to be around them. And I mean that, like, if someone was disappointed in me, I wanted to leave the room. Like, if somebody was, and I never wanted to speak to them again. Like, if something had gone wrong in the relationship, I'm going to move to another state. Like, we're not going to work through this. I'm just going to leave.
Avoid it.
I'm just going to avoid it. And because I was what you'd call like a people pleaser. And honestly, it wasn't until I went through So
would you leave for their comfort? For that person's comfort? Or
it was too much. Like, to think that you don't think that I'm perfect was too much for me.
Okay.
So you're getting into the deep waters of Tim's, like, psychological makeup now.
Yeah, bring it on.
It's scary down there, and it goes
These deep, dark pits.
But yeah, so everybody knows this, and my parents got divorced when I was a kid, and sometimes one of the things that you do when you're in a divorced household, or people do it in a household that has even more serious trauma, is the kids react in different ways. Some kids react like, I'm going to make enough attention through whatever that you're going to see me no matter what. I'm going to be over here and you're going to see me and you're going to need to take care of me because if I'm not getting taken care of, I am going to make it so that you must.
I was that kid.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
So I was the opposite of that.
Makes sense. That makes
Which
sense.
was, here's what I'm going to do for the system. You are never going to need to take care of me. Like that. That's like, I'm gonna present this front that there's nothing in here that needs taking care of. All good over here. Nothing to see
All
here.
good.
Move on. So there's nothing going on in here that requires anything of you. Just I'm going to be the peacemaker, the sort of place where everything is polished and all squared away. So when you kind of you sort of push yourself into that little mold, then when somebody says, you were really a jerk the other day. Like, I can't believe what you said. And you realize that they're right.
Devastating.
Oh, it's devastating. Like, well, we'll never be speaking again, So, and just, bye,
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like change the scene. Whoosh.
See, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm so opposite of that because, well, maybe from like a parental standpoint, I'm like, love me, notice me, be,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to take care of all the things for me, But from a like relational standpoint, I would say I'm a people pleaser, but the way that I am is very different. So like if I know that someone doesn't like me, I'll do everything in my power to make sure that they do.
Okay.
Which in effect makes them hate me more.
Okay.
I remember when
Like you're going to overproduce.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible, and it takes over everything in my mind. It takes up way too much mental real estate. But
I'm going to win my way back.
yes.
Yeah.
And so this one girl that I was working with years ago had told people that she thought I was annoying and thought my voice was annoying. So then I I compliment her. I do everything I can to win this girl back.
And
she hates
change
me
your
more.
voice?
Yeah. Well, I can't change my voice, but
I would like to compliment.
but I'd be like, I love your shoes. I love your makeup, which is true. Yeah. I did love those things. However, my intention behind saying that was not guilt-free. I was totally being self-serving and was like, please love me, please accept me. Even though I should be like, hey, you don't even know me and you said my voice was annoying. That's devastating to me, but I'm going to make it better. And then I drive them away even more, which is even worse because now I've created a situation where I'm even more annoying because I'm trying to show up in her life way more than I ever
trying
should.
To over push and it's over fake. And so what is community? Community is when you've held on past that stuff.
You jive.
And you jive. Well, yeah, it could be like a natural jive, but also I think community happens when you have decided to hold on to each other past those weirdnesses and past
it
those
can be a choice for sure.
Which is why for me, honestly, the first place that I would say that happened was I went to the Army. I went to basic training, and I was like, well, I always do everything right, so I'm going to do everything right. And my the people who knew tried to pull me aside and say, well, you can't please a drill sergeant, right? Like they're trying to physically train you for war, and so it's actually not possible to do everything that they ask in a perfect way, because if it was, you wouldn't be doing all the push-ups that you need to do every day to be trained to go to war. So like the fact that you are not going to satisfy these people, these leaders in your life. And I'm like, I don't know. Let's see, I'm going to go do basic training like nobody has ever done basic training because I meet the mark. You know what I mean?
I'm going to be the best at basic training.
I mean, do they know that I got straight A's, in elementary school?
I'm sure.
And so, so sure enough, I can't get my boots polished enough. I can't get my bunk squared away enough. I can't get my socks folded exactly the way they want. And I'm on the ground pushing push-ups, in the dirt. And it took a long time to realize, you mess up, You drop and you do 20 push-ups. You get up, and the drill sergeant says, all right, drive on. And you're okay. Like nothing has happened. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like, oh, the universe fell apart because I didn't meet the standard. But that is a big part of community, is just we're actually going to hold on to each other beyond these little kind of psychological hang-ups or interpersonal fantasies that we have about ourselves and about one another. And I'm actually going to hold on to you past the moment where you have really disappointed me or I have really disappointed you. And we're going to hold on to each other past that. And then we've got this whole category of things, right? Like forgiveness and reconciliation and renewed relationship and something broken that's now healed. And that's totally different. I think that's what people need. When they say, I want intentional community, I think that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. It reminds me of when, well, even in like, yes, friendships, but in romantic relationships too, it's so easy to see all of your differences as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And like the word love, someone older and wiser than me told me love is a choice. Like you love that person not because of all your similarities, but you're choosing to love them through your differences. And it's a matter of like, if that's something that you want to continue to do or not. And I think the best community that I've ever had when it comes to like friendships or people that I know would hold me up regardless of how many mistakes that I make are people that are still choosing to
stay committed.
Yeah, choosing to love me for me in my highs and my lows, and who choose to see me at my best and at my very worst.
Right. And made that commitment to stick.
Mm-hmm.
And which is ultimately, I mean, marriage is the ultimate emblem of that. Like we're gonna stay from this point forward. We're making a vow. We're making a covenant. We're making a bond that we're going to stay with one another. And love is not going to be a measure of my feeling that day. It's I've made a commitment to love you, which is an active verb, that I've made a commitment to make sacrifices for your well-being, and I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's going to result in really warm, heartfelt emotions and feelings, and sometimes that's going to result in not much feeling at all. Mm-hmm. But it's love, and love is going to keep growing.
Right.
And so yeah, you've in that you find a relationship. You're trying to find enough to grow your enough foundation to say God's calling us to make this bond permanent, like a marital bond.
Mm-hmm.
But that how do we break through to for example, do you like living with roommates and sharing the kitchen?
He's pointing this out because earlier I talked about how dishes piling up in the sink makes my skin crawl. It's a real problem. So I love living with...
It's not a joyful reminder of your friendships?
Certainly not. Yeah. But I have sweet friendships, and I am blessed to live with my friends.
Yeah.
But living with them also reminds me that I'm choosing to be their friend.
That's right.
Regardless of like how we live differently. And I don't know, you talk about marriage, which is more of a long-term commitment, and I'm not saying I'm like not committed to my friends, but I will say I'm in my mid-20s, and being in my mid-20s, and this is true for a lot of people in their 20s, it's a very transitional time. Like, what will I be doing?
Yeah, you can move in and out
yeah.
of places and relationships pretty quickly.
You change jobs, you change romantic relationships, you change just the context with which you live and live your day-to-day life. Like, you could go to a new gym, you could pick up pottery. Like, how do you obtain consistency in community when your life feels so transitional.
Yeah, and when you're younger, like a year here, a year there, it feels like things are moving really quickly. It can also be the case in your older life that people get they get resistant to relationship. You get more isolated. You get more used to your own routine. You've got your sort of goat track that you run around a cycle every week, and that's fine. But what does it mean to get into community? It means getting into places where people know you and still love you when they know you at your worst, or when they know you at simply not your best. And you've decided to hold on to each other in a way that you're going to get past just assuming that this relationship is about impressing one another. Like, I know you really like me because I show you these qualities. Well, what if I don't show you those qualities? Do you still really like me? And community is when we get past that. And I think God wants us in circles where we're getting past that regularly. And with roommates, like we're joking about it, but you're in a season where, like, you're not going to, like, storm out the door. Like, you're committed to living together.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And that means working through places of friction. And when you look back on it, one day, it won't be those places of friction that are really valuable to you. It'll be that you held together with one another in this relationship, and you were really close, even though you had qualities that grated on each other. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you
do that?
How do you find that? Say you're new to a city and you're introverted.
Yeah.
What do you do? Where do you start?
Well, so I work at a church, and one of the
Go
things.
on.
Yes, go on. Fascinating, really. And so what our church is? What's God doing with church? He's bringing people together. I remember one of my first Young Life training sessions.
Is this as a student or as?
I was now
leader?
a believer, and I was in high school, and as a sophomore, I was being allowed to lead the junior hires.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so it was like they were letting me train to be a leader as a sophomore. It's like, but
Big deal.
The Young Life leader said, okay, so what really lasts? What really matters? What really lasts? And we were all like, gold, or what really lasts? The elements. Lead, very small rocks. And she said, no. What lasts is relationships. Relationships. You're going to be your very body, the whole planet, whatever. It's all it could all spin apart. But as an eternal soul, you're in relationships with other eternal souls, and you're in relationship with God. So what's eternal? Relationships. And so what is church? Church is a place where God is pulling people into meaningful relationships with himself and with one another. And when you're with Jesus and you're with other people, you can get into relationships that actually matter, and you can feel the eternity in them. You can feel the everlastingness in them, because it matters more that you're in front of another eternal soul than I don't know, that you're having a fun experience.
Yeah.
So step into a church. I mean, it's like.
But then what?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pressing. But you walk into the doors of a church. There's a massive, at this church, there's a contemporary service, and then there's a more traditional service.
Yeah.
Say you walk into the contemporary service, and there's rows and rows and rows of chairs.
Yeah.
You sit down. You listen to the sermon. It's great, by the way. And then you walk out into the lobby.
Yeah.
Do you
run for the car?
Do you run? You sprint for the car?
Sprint for the car.
Do you go to the welcome desk? What's the next move?
Yeah, right. That's a great question. Because I think, first of all, do you like it when you go, if you go to a church, do you want it to be super dark where no one sees you, or do you want there to be lights on, and do you like when people stand up and shake your hand?
Ooh. It depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah.
That's a real toughie right there. I think I grew up in Catholic church where you always say, peace be with you, and shake the hands with everyone. So then going into a more contemporary service was like, oh, this is a big difference for me. But also when it was Like there were times when it was dark and it felt like really reflective, and no one can see me like crying while I worship, and I liked that.
Right.
But then I also really like to be able to see the faces of all the people that are in the doors. I feel like that's totally personal preference. That's a hard thing.
Yeah.
For me to.
Yeah, I remember I went to Passion City Church in Atlanta, which is Louis Giglio and Chris Tomlin is the worship leader, and it was awesome. Mm-hmm. It was as dark as if you go to Cave of the Winds and they turn out all the lights.
Uh-huh.
That's how dark it was. Like if you tried to move out of the aisle, you were definitely tumbling. Like it was, and a kid like got his phone out, like a middle school girl.
They stuck out,
and it's like boom, like this whole light went off.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and which I had a wonderful time.
Sure.
I actually thought this is really great. It's just me and Jesus. And
yes, let's go.
Nobody can see me.
Uh-huh.
And there's moments where you just want to be alone. But then I find more and more people are saying, "Look, I came to your church." People don't say this like to my face, but people are saying, "Hey, I got in my car, I went down to church, and nobody even turned and saw that I was there." Like I made this huge, like that's a huge thing now, right? It's like I made the commitment. Like I Googled your church. I looked. I decided. I went in there. I sat down. I got up. I left. I sort of lingered by the coffee pot for a minute. Mm-hmm. Nobody even said anything to me. They're insulted by that. Whereas I think actually just like 10 years ago, people would rather say, "Man, it was so offensive that I came to your church and all these people like grabbed onto me." Like I would rather just come and explore. Just give me some room. Give me some room to explore on my own. But
it's hard to navigate as
it's hard to navigate. But I think if you're trying to find community, you're trying to break into community as a church, you got to get past the handshake, smile stage in some way. And a church will have a welcome desk or a welcome host, and you just need to ask them. Is there a place? Like the churchy language now is next step. Is there a next step for me? You could just put a name tag on and say, "I'm looking for a next step." And because every church will have a next step. But the thing is, are you going to take it? Like it's really risky to go into the little room, isn't it?
What is the little room? I don't know that I've been to
the little room is like where
the next steppers go?
The next steppers go.
What is the little
It's like the little room. Or like
you go. Tell me what that is.
Or you go in our church, like you go in the elevator.
Like
you go in, then the doors close, and you're in the elevator with these strange people.
Uh-huh.
And you're going up. You're going up through the glass ceiling.
Where are they taking you?
We don't know. It's like Wonka chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the glass elevator.
It goes.
And there's.
It has a mind of its own.
There's Mike TV and Violet and Augustus Gloop, and you're like, who are these people? Why do I have to live with you? Oh, I wanted intentional community.
Yeah,
now I remember.
Yeah.
Perfect. And now you're in this room, and somebody's asking you, what do you think about Jesus? And but you have to have that.
You have to take the leap.
Community takes risk. Like everything worthwhile takes risk. You have to take the leap and ask for that next step, and then decide, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it.
So why do you think now, even when people do choose to take that, I'd venture to say now it's harder than ever to find these deep, meaningful, lasting friendships. Why do you think that it's harder now? Is it social media? Is it the state of the world?
I'm going to peg it on social media because that's a pretty easy target to put on the wall. Like
it's a cop out.
Right now, I can throw anything into the air and it will land on social media as the cause of all ills. Uh-huh. But I actually think it is true. Like you train yourself for isolation through social media.
Yeah.
Like, I don't compare to that. I don't compare to that. That's not my experience. That's really funny. Oh, that's super toxic. And you just, but it's all in here. It's all inside your head and in your own heart and in your own little universe. And your own little universe just gets tighter and tighter and smaller. And then you're supposed to look up and interact with another human being. And you're struck with fear. Like, I don't understand what happens now. You're going to say something and I can't swipe it away.
Yeah, and I have to respond.
And I have to probably respond or just run away awkwardly, And
it's like when you're at the grocery store and you see someone you know and you're like, oh, I want to say hi, but I don't want to be in a conversation.
Ah.
Does that ever happen?
I can't imagine that at all.
You totally can. You totally can.
No, I'm pretty regularly in that situation, because I'm usually trying to move pretty fast through things, and But people are you want to see people, and you want to just have that interaction and see where it goes. Because the honest truth is, a human conversation has the potential to change eternity.
Yeah.
Like, you enter into a conversation with somebody, and the next step out of their, the next words out of their mouth might be, you know what, the honest truth is I woke up this morning realizing I need a new relationship with God or something. And we need to be ready to
engage.
Just like, that whatever was on my agenda now, there's no way that compares with the eternal significance of this conversation.
Right.
And I think we've lost that because we're running at such a pace. Yeah, we're living on social media. We're living in our own minds. We're too much online. We're too much on screens. We're living at such a pace that we don't even have room to recognize this human interaction right here might change eternity.
So do you have any personal experience where human interaction or community has made a huge difference, has made all the difference?
So a couple things I remember in my early Christian experience. One was that going away on Young Life Camp was getting in a bus for 22 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
So get on a bus with a bunch of other high schoolers for 22 hours. And you don't stop. Like, there's a toilet in the back.
Yeah.
That's community.
Where's the food? I would have food.
I mean, everybody has food. Yeah.
You just pack it?
You just pack it. Yeah, we might have stopped at McDonald's or something. That was the day,
Thank goodness.
Those were the days. You just ate McDonald's. You didn't care. You just went right in there.
To you?
Oh, a lot of bad things happened.
Not at that moment.
Not at that moment, yeah.
Maybe later.
No, it felt great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember that, and then honestly, I did live in as a college-age guy, I lived in a house with other Christians through the summer with a couple who were there to intentionally disciple us and to encourage us to do evangelistic outreach in our community for that summer. So that was a big deal. Like, I committed to doing that, and that meant that we're going to sit down and we're going to know each other and we're going to love each other, at least for this 10-week period, no matter what you do to me, or no matter what you say, or no matter what I say, no matter what you find out about me, or my faults, or my, warts and all.
Right.
My good, my bad.
Yeah.
Like, when you see me crying and missing home, or when you see me strong and being bold.
Conquering the world.
We're going to be together. And that was huge. That was huge because, you knew that relationships endure being imperfect.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Do I really don't think that relationships can endure being imperfect? We're all imperfect.
Right.
But you get in that mindset.
Yeah, I think same goes for me as when I did the fellows program. That 5 years ago when I first moved to Colorado Springs, it was a group of people that was all put together that I don't know that I would have organically become friends with.
Right.
But now I talk to them every week, Those people saw me, again, at my high highs and my low lows, and still accepted me and have been a huge part of allowing me to feel like I can live freely in who God made me to be and who I want to be, who I am striving to become when it comes to my relationship with Him and with other people. So yeah, belonging has impacted my life in only positive ways. I've never felt a negative feeling towards it, but I have experienced loneliness and the before and after of putting myself out there to be vulnerable with other people. It's only positive things have come from being vulnerable with other people. trust is part of that. And I know in our last podcast we talked about trust and faith and all the things. But finding a group of people that you can choose to love and they reciprocate that love, I feel like it's a little bit of a taste of heaven.
It is. It is. It's a taste of grace, of God's love and grace and faithfulness, that you can be known and loved. Known and loved. Not just loved, not just known,
both.
But known and loved. Mm-hmm. And then you feel a little bit of what God means by I want to be with you. I will be with you to the end of the age.
So how can we, to wrap up this episode, how can we extend ourselves to know and love people that might be seeking this community?
I think that's great. And I think, so I would say try to find one of these spaces where wise people have created an environment for you to risk entering community. Mm-hmm. It could be the next little room at church, the meet us at this room to hear more about our church. Uh-huh. It could be a life group.
Or the elevator.
It could be a life group where you say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to say yes to the discipleship pastor, the life group coordinator, whoever it is in your church. And in our church, it's our discipleship pastor. And say, yeah, I want to be in a life group. Mm-hmm. I'm saying, I've heard it up front. I want to be in a life group. Tell me what to do. Tell me where to go. And or jumping into a program like First Pres Fellows,
right?
Like the Fellows program, saying, you know what, this has always been hard for me. I'm gonna take the intentional step in Fellows as I leave college. I'm gonna get into this commitment of walking with a certain group of people over a certain period of time, and I don't get to pick. These are areas where you're going to find that your lack of confidence that relationships can endure imperfection is not grounded, that relationships are stronger than you think, and that you can be imperfect, you can make mistakes and still be in relationship. You can be known and be loved, and that's when you enter into genuine community.
Yeah, and I know we mentioned that it's important to find a place where you're accepted, but I think being accepted is one thing, but being with people who have your best interest in mind is another. So listeners, viewers, we'd encourage you guys to overcome the fear of being vulnerable and finding people who really do want the best for you. Not only accept you, but want the best for you.
Yeah, I think genuine Christian community is not just I'm loved for who I am, which is really, really big, but that love is also an intention to help you become better, like to help you grow, to help you become who God intends you to be, and can see you in that perspective. So part of being known and being loved, like being loved is being loved also toward who God intends you to be. And that can mean change, like that can mean confrontation, that can mean challenge. And that's part of genuine community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching. If you're new to this podcast or if you've been here for a while, take a risk. Share this podcast with someone. Maybe even share it with someone that you want to try something new with.
There you go.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.